crush your enemies.
They drew first blood, not me.
See them driven before you.
Oh, my user.
And hear the lamentation of your women.
But I pity the fool.
Glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate.
Oh no.
They're here.
Oh, real light sleeper, child.
Welcome to Vintage Video, where we're rewatching the 80s so you don't have to. We'll be reviewing every major film release of the 1980s in chronological order, overanalyzing what you've seen and spoiling what you haven't. I'm Patrick O'Reilly.
I'm Jesse Bayless.
And I'm Richard Wells.
And today we're discussing Partners, released April 30th, 1982. It was written by Francis Veber, directed by James Burrows, and released by Paramount Pictures. Screenwriter Francis Veber was moved to write a gay comedy set in America by his displeasure with William Friedkin's Cruising, which seemed to paint the metropolitan gay community with a broad, psychotic brush. Veber connected with regular Taxi director James Burrows through Bette Midler's agent, Aaron Russo, and attached Burrows to his first and ultimately only feature film as director. Partners was illogically pitched to the studio as Cruising meets The Odd Couple, which absolutely no one could possibly have wanted.
Yeah, that's not at all.
Thing people like meets thing people didn't like. How about no? Bizarrely, the first actors offered the parts of straight cop Benson and gay cop Kerwin were Clint Eastwood and Woody Allen.
I wasn't expecting you to say Woody Allen, but
right?
I'm not surprised that you said
no,
Clint Eastwood.
Eastwood I think makes sense the way the film ended up, but Woody Allen is a bizarre choice.
Not that I think he would ever do that.
Even stranger than that, Eastwood had basically agreed on the condition that Woody Allen also agreed, but Allen passed on the offer. Other actors considered for Benson included Alan Arkin, Nick Nolte, and James Caan, paired with Dudley Moore as Kerwin. James Caan and Dudley Moore.
He practically is Nick Nolte.
Yeah. The studio stepped in to reject the pairing of Sam Elliott and Peter Riegert, who we just saw a couple of weeks back in the Growing Yourself segment of National Lampoon's Movie Madness. Paramount head Barry Diller didn't think they had the star power to hang a film on, and I agree. Russo met with Ryan O'Neal on the set of So Fine to offer him the part, and was so convinced that he was the man for the job that they agreed to delay Partners' production schedule to make room for him.
It's just funny to me that somebody went and saw So Fine or was seeing it being filmed and was like, this is convincing me to put you in
So
my
far,
movie.
I know you're willing to walk around in assless chaps because I can see your butt cheeks from here. O'Neal literally took a single weekend, 2 days off between the two productions. Partners was one of 6 mini-budget, $4 to $8 million titles that Paramount had greenlit to replicate the success of programs like Universal's early 70s $1 Million Movie program, which ultimately paid for itself 20 times over. Other Paramount titles we've covered from this program include Richard Pryor vehicle, Some Kind of Hero, and Jill Clayburgh vehicle, I'm Dancing as Fast as I Can. Later this season, we'll get to Jekyll and Hyde Together Again, White Dog, and the big earner from the batch, An Officer and a Gentleman. Most of the Paramount execs were confident Partners was the best script of the bunch and only agreed to include An Officer and a Gentleman because Paramount production head Don Simpson hated the Partners script and demanded Officer and a Gentleman be greenlit as a trade-off.
Wow. Well, that guy was right.
Yep. At the end of its box office run, the $6 million film had earned back $6.1 million, barely paying for itself if you don't include ad spending. For his work on Partners, as well as So Fine, Fever Pitch, and Tough Guys Don't Dance, Ryan O'Neal was nominated for the Worst Actor of the 80s Razzie, but lost to Stallone for a different collection of films. Director Burrows concluded upon the film's failure that TV is where he belonged, and within months co-created Cheers with Glenn and Les Charles, arguably one of the greatest television programs of all time, and directed the bulk of the series himself. Bulk of the series, man.
Fucking Arthur Digby Sellers wrote 156 episodes, dude. Huh. Bulk of the series.
The film opens with credits over black under the sound of someone typing. We fade up to see Ryan O'Neal as Detective Sergeant Benson arriving to work at a police station. Just as in Green Ice earlier this season, he establishes himself right away as a ladies' man by flirting with multiple women on his way across the room. He was invited in for a meeting with Captain Wilkins. Benson is followed through the office moments later by John Hurt as Officer Fred Kerwin, a meeker, less confident-seeming man. He is instructed to take a seat beside Benson and wait for Wilkins to call them in. The secretary stands to file some paperwork, and a series of inserts almost imply that she's waving her chest in Kerwin's face before bending over next to him. Benson signals Kerwin with his eyes like he's enjoying the show, and from the fact that Kerwin is not drooling or howling like a Chuck Jones cartoon, we're expected to infer that the man is a homosexual. Benson is called first into Wilkins' office and asked what he thinks of the second officer waiting outside.
First impression. Gay?
Wilkins, played by Kenneth McMillan, shares with Benson the details of a recent murder in the local gay community and tosses him an issue of gay men's magazine, Man's Man. The model on the cover of the issue was the murder victim, and the victim's father is a publishing magnate and has made public statements accusing the police of putting his son's murder case on the back burner because of his sexual orientation. The fact that they're having this conversation at all basically proves the man right, because Captain Wilkins felt he had to explain all this to preface assigning Benson to the case, as though he would have been bewildered otherwise, like, why are we investigating a gay murder? Wilkins is impressed that Benson identified Kerwin as gay and explains that the man works in the records department. Wilkins' assignment is an unorthodox one. Benson and Kerwin are to cohabitate and infiltrate the gay community undercover in search of a lead on this killing to satisfy the victim's rich father.
To satisfy the rich father, not to solve the murder of multiple people.
That's not why they're doing this. They would not have bothered if he didn't have a rich father.
Well, they don't know it's multiple murders yet.
Right.
That's true.
Benson's facial expression makes it clear how uncomfortable he is, and Kerwin's reservations have more to do with his own lack of experience on the street. He's a desk worker. Wilkins admits that he's only getting this assignment because he's gay, and Kerwin is disappointed to learn that it shows.
As a matter of fact, Kerwin, it would help us if it showed even more.
He shares the plan, and Kerwin is obviously reluctant to sign on. He calls Benson back into the office and calls both men chickens for being uncomfortable with each other, and joking Benson must be terrified that this tiny man will rape him. Ultimately, he threatens Benson with a demotion if he refuses to comply, but Kerwin is welcome to turn down the assignment if he's not up to it.
The way Wilkins phrases it, I bet you're scared that this guy's going to rape you. Like, you're saying that that's not going to happen, right?
Right.
Like, you don't believe that's going to happen, but he says it so matter-of-factly, like, no, it's probably a big chance that that's going to happen.
And I didn't read it that way. I read it as him being sarcastic to goat him into taking that.
I felt because he didn't, like, say, like, something counter to that afterwards. Like, I was like, are you implying that that is a possibility?
I get why Kerwin's afraid of this position.
Right,
I mean, not just because he is like a desk clerk and this is an unusual to be like out, undercover as, somebody on the street. But clearly he's spent a long time trying to hide his homosexuality because it's just not safe in general to be a gay man in this world.
And especially in a police department.
Right.
I feel like it's a very high-profile situation for him to be put in.
Right. So once he has to be more out about this, he can't put that genie back in the bottle, right? So, like, he's going to be a target potentially in the future for the rest of his life.
Right. Sometime later, Benson is packing for the assignment when his girlfriend Clara stops by to visit. A second knock at the door is an officer dropping off the keys to a Volkswagen for their cover, apparently the gayest car they could think of. His girlfriend spots it parked outside, and it's a Barbie pink convertible VW Bug with the top down. He drives it across town wearing a black bandana and stops to pick up Kerwin. He unexpectedly honks, "Mary Had a Little Lamb."
I feel like Benson's supposed to be more of like the leather community gay man in this film.
Yeah.
Are these guys that clueless that getting him a pink bug doesn't really fit that aesthetic?
Well, I mean, they are a couple, so it could have been his partner's
Benson
car.
literally always drives, I think, doesn't he?
Yeah, pretty much. Kerwin comes out in pink sweatpants and a sweatshirt and climbs into the Bug. Benson keeps accidentally touching Kerwin's legs and arms in the compact car and apologizes repeatedly. Benson stops the car on a blind turn to insist he has nothing against gay people, and Kerwin advises him to move the car before they're rear-ended, but it's too late. Benson calls Wilkins from the auto shop and blames the accident on Kerwin. He tries one more time to get out of the assignment, but Wilkins won't budge.
Why did you choose me for this job?
Because you're a good cop, Benson, a real good cop. And because of your cute ass.
Later, they pull the Bug into the motel where the murder took place. The man at the front desk is pleased to see a gay couple enter and offers to show them a vacancy, flirting with Benson all the way to room 7 and handing off the keys before leaving.
Oh my God. What the hell do we do now?
Beats me.
And I wanted Benson to say, "I never agreed to that." And Kerwin would say, "I said beats," with an S. Benson's already certain that this will fail and he will be demoted. Kerwin suggests Benson try flirting back with the man to pry loose information about the recent murder. Kerwin gives Benson a quick makeover to appear sexier.
Why? So you look sexy. Well, I mean, you're all we've got.
They invite the clerk, who will come to know as Monroe, out for a drink, and he greedily accepts. As he shares details of the night of the killing, he keeps groping at Benson under the table. He tells them he stepped outside his room for air seconds before the murder and could see flashbulbs going off in the room through the Venetian blinds. He assumes the killer must have taken photos of the body after killing the man. Kerwin puts an end to the groping by claiming ownership of Benson, and they immediately check out of the motel. Later, on a drive to an assigned apartment, Benson admits he feels sorry for women who've dealt with uninvited groping forever, presumably his own uninvited groping.
Exactly.
Their new home is in a majority gay neighborhood, and the landlord walks them through the place, talking about how they remind him of himself and his late husband. Benson is quickly overwhelmed by crowds of gay men surrounding the apartment and goes out for a run. When he spots a female jogger, he immediately forgets his cover and follows the girl all the way back to her apartment.
He just walks into her apartment. I guess we're supposed to assume that they struck up a conversation.
Yeah, that
but
we didn't see.
It's a weird cut. It
Because it
definitely
makes
is
it look
jarring.
like he hadn't even said hi yet, and he walked in the door behind her.
Yeah.
He sees a photo of her with a guy and asks if she's in a relationship.
My brother. Great looking, isn't he? You don't stand a chance. He's married.
And Benson is horrified to realize she thinks he's gay. He tears open the shower curtain to inform her she's mistaken, but we jump cut to them in bed together, and it looks like he had some trouble proving his orientation.
Also, you just met this woman, and I guess what they're implying is that because she thinks he's gay, she feels comfortable with him just coming into the shower.
But then when
showering.
he claims to be straight, it's like, no, I'm going to fuck a gay guy to prove to him that he's gay, and that it makes sense for me to be comfortable with him. Benson doesn't return to the apartment until that night and finds a party in full swing inside. He's furious the apartment is swarming with gay men, and Kerwin explains they improvised this housewarming party on their own, and he's annoyed because Benson stranded him here with them so far. Kerwin is asked to dance by one of the party guests, but for whatever reason he refuses to. Benson drags him forcibly through the party and hands him off to dance with the man. Kerwin finds Benson in the kitchen later and informs him he's been invited upstairs for drinks to the victim's apartment. Benson encourages Kerwin to accept the invite and drags both men out of the apartment by their wrists into the hallway.
Have fun.
So I get the impression that what we're seeing here from Kerwin is like his resistance to be openly gay.
Yeah.
Is that what all of these implications are? It's like I don't dance with men in public. I don't go home with them.
He might just be a shy guy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a dancer. If I were at a party and I was forced to like, oh, we have to pretend that we're super straight at this party. And it's like, okay, I still don't want to dance with people.
Right.
Is it cool if I don't do that? Hours later, the apartment has emptied and Benson awaits Kerwin's return. When he finally does, he hasn't collected much information. The blonde man, who will finally mention 5 seconds from the end of the film, is named Al, lived with the victim Davis upstairs for a couple years, but they barely knew each other. Benson assumes Kerwin just didn't ask the right questions, and Kerwin reminds him he's not a detective. Benson assures him he'll do better next time. Kerwin did manage to steal a photograph of the victim, Davis, and his long-term boyfriend, Walter, who wasn't mentioned in the police report. Kerwin heads to bed without his nightcap, a can of beer, and in the morning he surprises Benson with breakfast in bed. Today's target is Walter, boyfriend of the deceased Davis, and Benson assumes Kerwin can pick the guy up no problem. It worked last night. Kerwin points out that Davis had Benson's body type, and the guy would much more likely go for him than Kerwin.
He likes macho leather types. I wouldn't stand a chance. Now, if I had shoulders like yours, it'd be a cinch.
Benson is confused at his point, and we hard cut to the two of them sitting in the Volkswagen, and Benson is all dressed up like a leather daddy. They're parked outside a movie theater screening Le Cajo Fall Part 2, written by this film's screenwriter, Francis Weber, and 1980's Best Foreign Film Oscar winner, Mon Oncle d'Amérique. Benson doesn't want to exit the car because he's embarrassed by his outfit, but they don't have time to wait here. He steps into a small coffee shop and orders a beer. It's clear he's caught the cashier's eye, and Benson tells the man he'll be waiting outside at 1 a.m. after the place closes. The man excitedly agrees to the date. He pays for his drink but leaves it on the counter and returns to the car with Kerwin, only to learn he's proposed to the wrong man. Benson is obviously furious to have embarrassed himself and reminds us how people talked about homosexuals in the 80s and how he personally feels about them.
You saw his picture.
Yeah, I saw his picture. Those two f***s look exactly alike, just like all f***s.
Kerwin shrinks with embarrassment at this reminder that his partner, however friendly he might seem, still has a lot of homophobia to work through. Benson heads right back in, a little faster this time, and makes the same offer to the second coffee shop employee, the actual Walter.
I'll be waiting for you outside.
Hey, what about me?
Shove it, creep.
Yeah, but
I said shove it. I'll see you later.
We jump to 1 a.m. as the man crosses the street to hop in Benson's car, and Kerwin is hunkered down in the back seat. The man suggests they hit the beach for a midnight swim, and as soon as they're parked on the sand, Walter strips nude and dives into the water. Benson has no idea what to do next, and the man returns to naked tackle him to the sand. They're surprised here by 2 cops that arrest all 3 of them to take them in for processing.
2 and a peeping Tom.
Rushing them through the jail, one of the cops jabs Benson in the ass with his flashlight, and Benson almost takes a swing at the guy until Kerwin stops him. The 3 of them are put in a cell together, and the man from the coffee shop, Walter, is locked away without any clothes.
I do think it's interesting that Walter seems to be not concerned at all that there was a third person there just watching.
Well,
them.
we also don't know how that whole scene unfolded on the beach, but yeah, it does seem like...
But he seems totally fine with Kerwin now.
Yeah, even to the next scene where they're having a discussion, all 3 of them together.
Yeah. The next day, the 3 of them are having breakfast at Winchell's Donuts, and Walter cries as he talks about the victim, Davis. When they last parted ways, Davis had gotten a phone call from a man with a scratchy voice. He was being invited out for a very well-paid photo session based on the success of his cover of Man's Man magazine. As they drop the man off, they ask why he didn't call the police, and he says police don't look into these murders. They'd lost a friend named Clyde Thompson 6 months ago, and nothing was ever done about it. Every time we see Kerwin alone in the apartment, he's cooking, cleaning, doing dishes, straightening paintings on the wall. He's presented as a very homemaker type. It makes sense that he would feel so uncomfortable moving out from behind a desk for this assignment. When Benson gets home from the records department, he shares that Clyde Thompson was around the same age as Davis, also a model, and also appeared on the cover of Man's Man magazine. Benson goes to work out at a local gym and tries to talk with the regulars about the first victim, Clyde Thompson, and learns the name of Thompson's roommate, Ed Petersen. By incredible chance, one of the men working out not only knew Clyde, but he knew Ed Petersen's name, and he has a photograph of Ed Petersen in his locker, and he tells Benson the guy's full address and even gives him directions to the place.
It's a very tight-knit community.
Yeah. Also, when your friends get murdered, I feel like you should start climbing up with some of this information. Benson returns to the apartment to report his findings to Kerwin, and he can smell a freshly baked chocolate cake. Benson admits he's exhausted from all the gyms he went to, and Kerwin leaves to run a bath for him. Do you guys recall the last time we saw an adult man run a bath for another adult man?
I mean, she wasn't technically a man, but Victoria.
Not what I was thinking of. Perhaps you'd like me to come in and wash your dick for you, you little shit.
Oh. Is that Arthur?
That's right.
Nice.
The next day, Benson and Kerwin trail Ed Petersen to a local grocery store. He's played by a young James Remar. Do you guys recall the last time we saw James Remar play a gay roommate pursued for questioning by a straight police officer posing as a gay one to solve a series of murders in the gay community?
Was it Cruising?
Yes, it was. He lived right down the hallway from Al Pacino's character. No idea why they followed this guy through the store, but Benson proceeds to follow him all the way up to his front porch where they should have just knocked on the door in the first place. They just wanted to see what kind of groceries he buys first? I don't get it.
Yeah, because they had his address.
Yeah. Petersen appears to worry that he's in danger and shoves Benson hard over a row of trash cans to the sidewalk. Following the pattern of the previous murders, they decide to touch base with the latest cover model for Man's Man, played by Martin Cove. They reach him by phone and warn him that the previous models had been killed soon after their issues were published. The model says he recently got a phone call from a man offering great pay for a photo session. The man had a scratchy voice, but he turned the offer down. Benson suggests they could coordinate a sting operation through the magazine, and Kerwin takes it a step further to suggest Benson pose for the next issue's cover. He's obviously not excited about the plan.
This whole case is a crock of shit. I won't show my ass, and that's final.
And of course, we cut right to the photo studio. Benson's in his dressing room, and we hear him scream from inside, and show favorite Sidney Lassick comes out the door, having apparently been ejected by Benson, never to return to the film, nor is he credited in the film. I was like, what? Why does Sidney Lassick not come back?
Yeah, but it's totally, I mean, obviously it's him.
It's definitely him, yeah.
That man is absolutely rude. I only wanted to apply a little oil to his body. Son of a bitch.
Eventually, Benson emerges dressed like a Roman archer, I guess. Someone calls it Robin Hood later.
Or Cupid.
Yeah. But Benson is surprised to find a female photographer operating the camera. She advises him to remove his towel so they can get started.
Can you concentrate a bit harder, if you know what I mean?
After the photo shoot, he finds her in the parking lot, as she tells him that despite his inexperience, he did okay, and she might have more work for him. He gives her his number. In their apartment that night, Kerwin is trying to mend a buttonhole on a shirt, but he can't figure it out. Benson takes the shirt to finish the stitching himself. Kerwin is amused by the image of Benson's sewing and teases him.
Faggot.
They both laugh. Benson suggests they stay in for dinner tonight, but Kerwin isn't sure they have the ingredients for a proper meal. Benson goes to check the fridge and finds a 3-course dinner all prepared for them, and Kerwin is amused by his reaction.
Oh, you asshole.
It's their 1-week anniversary in the apartment, and Kerwin asks Benson to pick up some bread at the corner store while he sets the table. Without thinking, Benson gives Kerwin a peck on the cheek as he leaves the apartment.
Now, this was the only time, I think, in the whole movie that I actually genuinely chuckled.
Yeah, and I thought it's a cute moment between them.
Yeah.
I actually think it would have been great if he'd come through the door, realized what he just did, and then been like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, not cared about it. But he's like, actually seems kind of upset that he did it. Like, he's worried, like he's going to continue to be worried after this.
Well, and they're both equally shocked.
Yeah.
Like it happens, and then he goes off, and they both kind of have this realization like a couple seconds later. Wait, did that just happen?
I thought at first that he did it on purpose to kind of like throw Kerwin off. He was just like, oh, this will be funny. I'll just do this on the way out, to just be like, that's nice of you to make all this food for us, and this is sweet what you're doing.
Now, do you feel like there's any indication that he is
discovering himself?
Yeah, well, and even just like even if he's not fully gay, like he loves Kerwin in this moment, and he just is realizing it.
I think that people exist on a spectrum, but I don't think that the way that he's presented in this movie that he would ever go for a man. But I do think that at least in his head he's realizing that he categorizes people in a way where he's like, a person who makes food for me is like a loved one that I'm allowed to kiss, and a person who works with me on a case is a person that I do this thing for. And he's realizing the problematic way that he sorts people in his head, at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
It is possible that he is also coming to terms with some
Kerwin.
things about himself, because we have already been, and we'll never touch on it again, but so far we've a couple times touched on the fact that he's having performance issues, which also come up in Cruising, and in that film are definitely indicative of the fact that he's realizing that he belongs in this community more than he belongs in his marriage to Karen Allen in that film.
And I feel like, we don't touch on that particular point again, but I think we do touch on the point that I feel like he has feelings for Kerwin.
I think so.
You know, like more than just a friend kind of way.
Yeah. And it's impossible to say whether that's like a familial sense or like a very close friend, or whether it's an actual romantic
We don't get a
thing.
lot of sense of him processing this.
Yeah, and there's also indications of severe rewriting going on throughout the story.
Mm-hmm.
In the stairwell, Benson finds photographer Jill from today's session. She brought the contact sheets. He invites her inside just as Al, the blonde guy from upstairs, walks by their door. Benson sits on the couch to inspect the photos. He's embarrassed by these pictures, but distracted by the attractive photographer, and he invites Jill out to dinner right now, despite all the work Kerwin put into their anniversary meal. When Kerwin worries aloud the crab won't keep another day, Benson switches gears and invites the woman to eat here with them. He volunteers Kerwin's services as chef to prepare more food for their guest. Benson and the photographer spend the better part of the meal eye-fucking each other, and Kerwin sits there in awkward silence as an unwelcome third wheel. When the straights admit they aren't hungry, Kerwin stands to clear their still full plates from the table. He scrapes all the food into the trash, and when they barely react to him, he slips out of the apartment to a bar downstairs where he's found by Al, the blonde guy from upstairs. He saw the photographer head inside, so he guesses correctly what's going on at home.
Nothing's the matter. He's with her.
He assures Kerwin that Benson's hot, sure, but he's clearly a hustler, and Kerwin should have seen this coming. Kerwin announces he's headed home, and Al tries to invite him to his own place instead. Kerwin passes on the offer and wanders out somberly. Another guy takes the bar stool beside Al, and once he's been filled in on the whole story, reveals a rumor he heard that the photographer woman, Jill, actually killed the first victim, Clyde Thompson. Back in Kerwin's apartment, he makes a bed for himself on the couch, not wanting to interrupt the photographer and Benson. He sits alone in the dark for a bit, when suddenly the photographer comes out of the bedroom in one of Kerwin's shirts in search of coffee fixins. Kerwin orders her back to the bedroom, offering to prepare breakfast for the happy couple. When he brings a tray of food to them, he places it at the foot of the bed and retreats back into the living room. Kerwin pops out to a payphone to report Benson's behavior and the threat it poses to their cover to the captain. Almost immediately, Benson reacts to a dressing down from the captain on another call and promises not to allow the woman back into their apartment.
I mean, I don't think that this was the incorrect thing
No,
to do.
I think this should have happened because he's being really careless with the
Yeah.
way he presents himself if he's pretending to be a part of this community.
And that's purely for his own ego.
Right.
Like he's like, I have to maintain that I'm not gay.
And we've also established that he has a girlfriend.
Yes.
He has a full-time girlfriend, and he already had sex with another woman on the way to this one.
Yes.
And it's been a week.
Yeah.
It's also important to note that we have not gotten Jill's name.
Right.
We won't.
We don't get most of their names until the end. We don't get
Yeah.
Al's name or Jill's name. I don't think they ever say Walter's name. I got it from the IMDb page, not from the movie.
Yeah. And so, like, I was like, when did they say her name?
Right.
And I have the exact moment.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I figured it out eventually. I was like, what is going on? Why are we holding all this back? And it feels like at the end they realized, oh, we haven't said any of these people's names. We need to bring these people up again and say their names real quick. When Kerwin returns to the apartment, Benson stares him down like he's the one who betrayed Benson and not the obvious other way around. Next, we see Benson's girlfriend, Clara, whose name, again, isn't mentioned until seconds before the credits roll, passing a newsstand, and her eyes bulge when she spots Benson posing naked on the cover of Man's Man magazine. We cut back to the captain's office, and he compliments the cover photo. Benson is embarrassed that the boys at the station must be laughing about it. Included in the issue was Benson's phone number, but the only calls he's received so far were horny readers or legitimate modeling opportunities. Captain Wilkins assures him the killer will call soon.
So he's saying that the guys at the station are going to be laughing. It's like, do the guys at the station read the magazine?
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's funny that Wilkins spends this entire phone call looking at the magazine in
Yeah.
his hand. It's like, I feel like I would have looked at it once and been like, okay, yep, that's the guy, and he's naked
Yeah.
there. And it's like, unless I was like unexpectedly interested in it, I wouldn't keep looking at it for this whole phone call.
see, there was a missed opportunity for when the magazine comes out for the captain to ask one of his officers, hey, go pick me up this copy, the latest copy of Man's Man. Would you? He was like, sure, Captain.
Yeah.
like have that moment of like, what?
Yeah. Or like he gives him like Guns and Ammo magazine, and he's like, what's this? And he's like, it's inside. It's like, I figured you didn't want people to know what I was buying you. While Benson spends the afternoon screening calls, there's a knock at the door, and it's his girlfriend, Clara. Turns out the magazine didn't just print his phone number, they printed his address, which seems unnecessarily dangerous since they weren't even doing that for the previous models who were attacked. Of course, in the middle of arguing with Clara, a call comes in from a gravelly-voiced man looking for Benson.
I want to speak to the model on the cover of Man's Man.
I don't know his name, but I have his address and phone number and social
Yeah.
security number.
It should probably say his name somewhere in the magazine, right? The voice offers him $3,000 for a photo session tonight. He tells Benson to meet him at the corner of Santa Monica and Doheny at 9:30. Do you guys recall the last time a suspected murderer specified a time and intersection for his next presumed murder? Very recent.
Was it Movie Madness?
It was Movie Madness.
Then he said he's going to start murdering women again. This afternoon. Maple and Chandler.
Benson gets all dressed up in a cowboy outfit to meet the gravelly-voiced man and tucks a dark blue hanky in his back left pocket. According to hanky code, dark blue means he's down for anal sex, and the left pocket means he's a top. Kerwin tries to offer him a revolver for self-defense, but Benson mocks him again since there's nowhere to hide the gun. You're dressed as a fucking cowboy.
Yeah.
Put it in a goddamn holster. He'll think it's a prop. We cut to the agreed-upon intersection, and Benson stands at the end of a row of prostitutes waiting for his ride. A limousine pulls up, and he ducks inside, and someone else follows in a second car. The second car has Captain Wilkins and Kerwin in the back seat, with other agents driving. The limo driver is the scratchy-voiced man, and he says they're headed to a motel. They book a room at the Farms Motel at the edge of town. The old man who drove Benson here instructs him to take his clothes off. The rest of the cops all wait outside for a signal to intervene. It's a near-exact duplication of a scene from Cruising 2 years earlier. The old man closes the blinds on the window, and outside, Kerwin is getting nervous about having no line of sight to confirm Benson's safety. When the photographer kneels to plug in the lights, he shorts the circuit and the room goes dark. Kerwin can't take the suspense and jumps the gun, raiding the motel room. The same thing happens in Cruising, and just like in Cruising, the old man was not the killer. Benson is furious at Kerwin for initiating the raid, and honestly, Kerwin didn't need to be here. Like, this should be just the team performing the raid. You don't need to bring a guy from the records department to this.
I also think that when you go into those sorts of things, you have a discussion beforehand with very clear guidelines about when you're going in. And if Kerwin is there, should have been part of those conversations.
Yeah. Now Benson chews him out in the car ride back to the station, and Kerwin sobs in the back seat, embarrassed to have screwed up, but still reeling from the thought that Benson might already be dead. A call comes in confirming they have the wrong man when James Remar as Ed Petersen is found dead in another disheveled apartment.
He was a model for man's man, too.
Then we have the wrong guy.
Benson asks to be let out of the car so he can walk the rest of the way. We cut to photographer Jill pulling into her driveway, and Benson surprises her from the shadows of her porch. She's spooked at first, but moves inside with him. We cut back to the bar by the apartment, and the blonde neighbor Al shares with Kerwin the rumor is Jill killed Clyde. What I don't like about this clue is there's no way anyone would have developed this rumor without catching her in the act. Why does anyone think Jill killed Clyde? It also makes no sense that they haven't been in a rush to tell Benson that his second or third girlfriend is murdering man's man cover models. Like, why wouldn't you say to both of them right away, hey, the girl that you had in your apartment, we're all pretty sure that she's been killing models. But why male models? Are you kidding? I just told you.
I just explained the whole thing.
In Jill's home, she listens to her answering machine and scribbles down a list of upcoming photo gigs. I think this is where we finally hear her name. Someone's like, hey, Jill, I got it. And that's it. That's the only time anyone says Jill.
I found a transcript of this film online and I just did a, Control F to look for Jill. And that was the first instance of her name appearing in dialogue.
Hi, Jill. It's Marcel. I'm just in town from Paris for a few days.
Back in the bar, we hear Call Me playing from the speakers. Do you guys recall the film that song debuted in?
Was it Cruising?
No.
Okay. It was around that time, though.
It was around that time.
Oh, it was American Gigolo, wasn't it?
It was American Gigolo. Because you call him anytime. Kerwin asks Al if Petersen was so sure that Jill killed Clyde, why didn't he report her to the police? And Al says Petersen decided to blackmail the photographer instead. I don't get it. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Kerwin lets it slip that Petersen has just been killed, and the blackmail works as a clear motive in this killing. Kerwin says they have to tell Benson right away, and we cut to Benson and Jill having sex when her phone rings. We've hinted a couple times now that Benson's having trouble performing because of this assignment, but he seems perfectly able to perform here, and it never comes up again, because this movie was barely written. Benson doesn't want to hear whatever important business Kerwin's called about, and hangs up on his partner. It's like, we're investigating a series of murders. I have something of dire importance to tell you. I don't care. Click.
Well, I think he's also compensating right now for the fact that
I guess.
he's been struggling, so he doesn't want to stop here.
The next morning, Benson makes plans to spend the weekend with Jill as she's headed out the door for another job. Back in their apartment, Kerwin is sipping tea and listening to Glenn Miller's Moonlight Serenade. When Benson comes home, Kerwin tries to apologize, but informs him of the rumor that Jill herself is the killer. Benson is predictably defensive of his second girlfriend.
I don't give a shit about your gossip. I've taken it for 2 weeks. It's gotten us nowhere.
Both men make their cases to the captain, but Kerwin's entire theory hinges on Al's word, and he's only sharing rumors he's heard. His absence of a case comes across as pure jealousy to everyone.
But she is a part of it, I'm sure. That bitch.
Thank you for sharing your insight with us, Kerwin.
In her photo studio, Jill is informed of Ed Petersen's death the night before and appears to be hearing it for the first time. When Wilkins tires of Kerwin's predictions of danger, he forces the man out his office door.
Must be that time of the month.
Kerwin seems to head directly to Jill's house from the station and is inside snooping around when she gets home from today's photo session. She listens to her answering machine messages while she reads about the latest killings in the paper. One of the calls is from Petersen last night before he was killed. He's calling to warn her that Benson may be dangerous, and she's totally perplexed. Petersen says he's hidden evidence on a shelf in her dark room, and she moves to find it as the next message starts. It's Benson, and he says he's coming over now. I guess this is from last night before he came over. All she finds is a loose piece of tape under a shelf, but as soon as she comes out of the room, she's startled by a man in her den.
Give me the negatives.
We cut to Wilkins' office as Kerwin slaps a canister of 35mm film on his desk. Evidently, Kerwin intercepted it before Jill got to the darkroom and won't have anything to hand over to the ominous man in her home now.
Was that a pun?
What?
Evidently, because it's evidence?
Evidently, Literally no reason he would take this film canister without knowing what the pictures are, but for some reason he's certain that these photos will incriminate her. I suppose it's possible he was in the house long enough to hear Petersen's message, but if he was, we should have seen him listening to that message from the darkroom. As it stands, he stole a random canister of film out of probably thousands in a professional photographer's home, and he's somehow sure that it's just pictures of her committing multiple murders.
To be fair, I think if a canister of film is the only one taped in an odd location, like under a desk, that's probably the one that has incriminating evidence. But he's not an idiot. Like, he's not great at being, like, a cop on the beat or whatever. But, like, he should know that, even if this is incriminating, he's just suddenly ruined the entire case by taking it out of the home without a search warrant.
Yeah, for all we know, these are all fully fabricated that you guys just made it in a lab because it showed up first at the police station where you handed it off to your captain.
There's no chain of evidence here. He can't, he has no
you had
warrant.
no warrant to be in there.
So, like, there is no case even if this incriminates her.
Nice work, Dirty Harry. When the photos are processed, they contain the victims of the killings at the crime scenes before their deaths. Wilkins has to give Kerwin credit for the find, but for some reason they keep him sequestered in the captain's office. Wilkins orders up a black and white to collect Jill from her home, and we cut back there as she assures the strange man that Petersen blackmailed her to take their pictures, and a man named Benson must have stolen the negatives because he was here when she left this morning. Jill phones Benson to confirm their weekend plans. With the intimidating man standing over her shoulder, she gives Benson a motel address to meet her at. Kerwin leaves the station, and back in the apartment, he sees Benson's note about the hotel in Santa Clarita and decides to follow him there.
There's also a scene where, at the police station, where Wilkins is walking away from camera and the camera lingers on him. And as he's walking away, it's just him reaching behind himself and scratching his ass for like 10 seconds.
It's like, you just wanted to leave this in there?
Well, yeah, I was like, what is this?
Just in case McMillan ever tries to deny his itchy ass, I got proof it's in a movie. When the police arrive to Jill's home, they find her strangled to death on the couch, having served her purpose to the villain by inviting Benson to the motel.
Also, no reason to enter her house.
Right, yeah.
Because if she doesn't answer the door, you don't just go in. They would have to have seen that she is strangled, or the door would have to have been left open.
Maybe the villain left it
seen her
open
from the window.
Yeah, or the guy left the door open on his way out, because who fucking cares? Wilkins orders Benson located immediately. Kerwin may have been wrong about the killer, but right about his partner being in danger. We cut to a series of cars racing to Santa Clarita. Kerwin in the pink bug, the villain in a sedan, and Benson pulls up to the motel in his own red Mazda RX-7. Stuck behind slow cars, Kerwin is reminded of the ridiculous horn installed in the bug. Benson is shirtless in the motel room and hears a knock at the door, but Kerwin made it here first and insists again that Benson is in imminent danger. Benson refuses to listen to the whole warning and tosses Kerwin out the door against Benson's own parked car. Wilkins phones the motel, which they probably should have tried earlier, and in the middle of re-warning Benson, he finds himself at gunpoint. The ominous man has entered his room. He demands the negatives, but Benson informs him that he's made a big mistake.
Detective Sergeant Benson of Homicide. The negatives are in police custody. You haven't got a chance.
It's like, Benson has no idea what photos they're talking about, does he?
Yeah, no.
Did Wilkins tell him about the photos just now on the phone call?
I don't think he had time because the cord gets pulled out.
He just made this all up?
The man asks for the negatives.
Yeah, and Benson says, they're already in police custody. It's too late. You screwed up. And it's
I guess
also, what are you talking about? I have no idea what
this could be just bluffing for time.
He asks the man why he killed all the models, and the man says Jill killed the first victim, never explains why, and he killed Davis for seducing him, but then Jill had photos of Davis and this man together, and Petersen was using them as blackmail, so he killed Petersen. The whole story is as convoluted as it is inconsequential. It's clear they started with gay cop, straight cop, and didn't think the actual case mattered. Why bother to assign one of the kills to Jill at all?
Yeah, I don't get it.
Or just have Jill be the killer.
Right.
Wait,
if she killed all three of them, then I get it. She's a psychopath serial killer. But if she just killed the first guy, why did she do that?
Yeah.
Why do we bother making her look so innocent on the way to getting strangled, only to back up and say, actually, she killed Clyde, and we don't fucking know why that happened?
Yeah.
I guess just so we don't feel bad that she was
Died?
a victim?
Yeah. It's like we have to build in something so that the audience doesn't feel bad about her getting murdered.
Well, because otherwise it's kind of Kerwin's fault.
That she got strangled?
Yeah, because
she got involved in that whole situation herself.
Yeah.
If she'd had the photos there, she would have handed them over and gotten
he would have strangled anyways. Yeah, fair enough. I guess that makes sense. Who is this guy?
Who is this guy? No, they're going to explain it very thoroughly in just a second. Wait.
Okay.
Throughout the man's confession, Kerwin is watching everything from the beach off the motel room's patio. Keep in mind, this motel was supposed to be in Santa Clarita, so there shouldn't be an ocean here. Like, I don't understand what is going on outside of this motel room.
Yeah.
Kerwin points the gun at the confessing mystery man while he waits for a clear shot. He juggles his revolver like he's the goddamn shakiest gun in the West. Eventually, the villain raises his gun in anger, but follows Benson's gaze to Kerwin outside, and both men shoot each other simultaneously. Benson runs to Kerwin on the beach and finds him bleeding from a gut shot.
But provides no aid.
Yeah, just watches him bleed.
Just watches like, hey, you're going to be all right, buddy. I'm not touching you, though, because...
Well, the power of positive thinking, Richard.
Thoughts and prayers.
He assures him he'll be fine, but he doesn't respond at all because he's dead already.
That's what that's what I thought was happening.
He is dead. He's definitely dead here.
I thought that Benson had a breakdown.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're going to be just fine, buddy.
Yeah.
Benson keeps talking to Kerwin's corpse as though they're simply making dinner plans together for tonight. Suddenly, they're all surrounded by police in the sand, and we cut hours forward. Benson assumes the worst.
He's dead. No, he's tougher than we all thought. He'll make it.
Thank God.
In case it wasn't obvious from John Hurt's absence from the rest of the film, of course this is a rewrite. He did not survive the first draft of the film or the first cut of the film.
Well, and like the whole conversation, like not just about having dinner. He's talking about, he's like, we're gonna find a nice place to move into, and I'm gonna build you a beautiful kitchen to cook us dinner in, and like he's talking about full out like living with this man.
Right. But he also sounds like he's talking to a child. He never comes to tears.
Yeah.
He's never actually sad.
He doesn't touch him. Like, he should have been holding him.
Yeah.
Like
but Kerwin's just bleeding out on the beach, unconscious, like eyes closed fully, like dead weight. And he's just talking to him like he's a ghost of himself and everything's going to be fine. In case we didn't understand what the fuck even happened, Wilkins summarizes it, and I still don't fucking get it.
He was right. There were 2 murders.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Kerwin never fucking said there were 2 murders in the entire movie.
No, he didn't.
He never said that. He just said Jill did all of it the whole time.
There were 2 murders. Douglas, a stockbroker, and a family man, and then the girl.
Who the fuck is Douglas? Is that the guy Kerwin just shot? That's Douglas? We didn't introduce him at all before he showed up to Jill's house just now?
Didn't we? I feel like you mentioned somebody at the beginning. Like, did somebody have a father who was a stockbroker or business
he's
guy?
a publishing magnate.
Oh, a publishing magnate.
And it's not this Douglas guy.
It's not
because he
him.
wouldn't kill his own son.
Although that would have been a twist.
But that's
yeah,
what
it's
I
like,
was thinking.
you have photos of me making out with my own son. Now I have to kill you and my son.
Right, or it was
this isn't Nixos Naxos.
It was a homophobic thing. It's just like, oh, his son came out on this cover and he was so embarrassed to, you know, that this had happened.
But he's clearly not, because he cares about his son enough to like pursue an answer to his son's death.
That's true. I don't know. Nothing makes sense. I'm trying to rewrite a movie that didn't.
Yeah, it would be crazy for him to be like, I hate gay people, but also, cops, how dare you hate gay people? Go figure out who's killing the gay people.
Yeah. Well, or maybe it was a cover, but why would you want him to pursue it if you actually killed him?
Right.
Yeah.
He's probably just mad because he was like, I have magazines. I'm a publishing magnate. Why do you have to go on Man's Man? I got better ones. I got Playgirl.
That's why we were all confused.
Well, this is the toughest case I've ever worked on.
Is it?
Apparently. I mean, I would have a really hard time with this case, too, because I have no idea who the killer was in the original draft, but this is definitely a rewrite answer to like, oh, who's the killer? A guy we found after we'd already shot the film that agreed to 2 days shooting, who we could call Douglas and say he did it for 2 of the 3 victims for no reason. Benson posed as a gay man for literally no reason. None of the clues lead logically to each other. All they had to do was notice the victims were all on the cover of the same magazine and then talk to the photographer. That's all they had to do. Benson, who only learned Jill was strangled 3 minutes ago, mentions that he can't wait to spend his newly free weekend with his other girlfriend now. And Wilkins pads the lie that Kerwin survived with more worthless details.
One thing sure is giving him the will to live. He said you 2 are setting up house together.
Benson freezes, startled by the comment, and the words "the" and "end" appear on either side of him before the credits roll.
That last comment by Benson of I can't wait to go away with Clara is like, you were just going away with Jill.
Yeah.
This weekend that you were going away was with Jill that you were cheating on your girlfriend with. Also, while cheating previously with another woman.
Well, he just found out Jill died, so he's had like blue balls for 4 minutes. And so he's like really excited to learn that he can go fuck someone else now. Because he's got the weekend off.
That's right.
I have no idea who the actual killer was in the first draft. Clearly not Doug or Jill. But I'm curious who you guys would guess it was. Because I have a theory about who it might have been in the original draft.
Was it Sidney Lassick?
No, but I did think that when he never came back. I was like, oh, they wouldn't put an actor of that caliber in 1 second of the movie and never have him come back.
I mean, I feel like the only other character we get any substantial amount of information from is Al. So maybe Al is trying to
And Al's the one who's pointing the finger at Jill the whole time.
Yeah.
I felt like it's got to be Al. Al was literally a roommate of the murdered guy.
Right.
And so there are two raspy-voiced gentlemen.
No. The raspy voice thing was a red herring the whole
That
time.
was a red herring?
It's literally just the photographer had a raspy voice. The photographer who they busted in during the raid and he didn't do anything, that's the only person with a raspy voice, and he was not the killer. It was just coincidentally he had called a couple of the people who died. So the only clue that they had from anyone who was murdered is that they got a phone call from a raspy voice man, and that guy didn't do it. So they got no clues from any of the victims.
And Jill did take photos, or no, Ed Petersen took photos and gave them to Jill?
Jill took photos of the man and Davis together.
Then why did Ed Petersen have the photos?
Because he blackmailed her for the photos.
Well, how would he get the photos? What would he blackmail her with if he didn't?
Because
have the
he knew
photos?
she killed Clyde.
But what evidence does he have?
We don't bother with the Clyde thing at all. Jill is a very nice, talented, professional photographer who for some reason killed a random gay man earlier in the story and then somehow left enough evidence for Petersen to scrape a pile together and blackmail her with it until he had pictures of other important people with other gay models. And then when one of them ended up dead, he was like, all right, I'm going to blackmail everybody and I'm going to make a huge profit off of Clyde's corpse. This is great.
But then he tells Jill in a phone message that he left her the photos.
He left her proof of the evidence that he has.
Okay. So, okay. All right. I guess I can see that.
Yeah. Also, if the killer was Al, the motive is super easy. You just say that he's wanted to be on the cover of this magazine for years, and all these people kept getting it over him. The original cut of the film, I shit you not, ends with Officer Kerwin not getting killed by Douglas, family man, but killing himself because he's so sad.
Ugh.
That was the original ending to this film.
Well, yeah.
So wait, does he get shot then?
I think he gets shot,
himself?
maybe, and he survives. I don't know what happened. All I know is that at the end of the movie, he kills himself, and the film even screened that way for several test audiences before the filmmakers learned, to their shock, that audiences had grown to like the only likable character in the whole film. So presumably a second ending was written to apparently still kill him off because it seems like they definitely wanted him to look dead on this beach.
Yeah.
And it's clear from the fact that he never came back that that's how it ended. Because they didn't even get a shot of him being okay or waving. They didn't even get a fucking body double to wave from an ambulance.
Mhm.
It was like, John Hurt was like, what? That movie shot like 6 months ago. I died at the end, remember? No, I'm not coming back for another scene.
Like, I've already done 2 death scenes.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this.
You're not going to kill off Kerwin again. My preferred reading of the current ending is that Kerwin was killed by Douglas, the anonymous family man, and Wilkins just doesn't have the heart to tell Benson. So he's just like, yeah, you know what? Turns out he's fine. He's actually, he's moving to a department upstate, and he's going to live out his life there.
He's living out on a farm.
Yeah, he's going up to the farm department. That's Partners. What a fucking mess. I'm glad that he was like, I'm never going to make movies again, because 1, he's terrible at it, and 2, Cheers is like the best show ever. Like, I don't understand how these came from the same person, unless this is just like literally the studio is holding the other side of the pen like, no, then he kills himself. And he's like, what the fuck?
Well,
why?
Well, in his defense, he didn't write the movie. He's just working with what he had. But
yeah. And Francis Weber thinks that if this movie had been made in France, where his other films were made, that people would have loved the ending where he killed himself. And it's like, really? That's weird. But yeah, what a mess. It made me so angry. And at the end, it's like, your rewrite completely fucked the movie so hard that nobody could possibly come out of this movie and understand what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one on the way home was like, wow, I never expected it to be the guy they hadn't introduced yet. Coincidentally in coordination with a woman who had no motive and who we never suspected of anything.
I can just see the focus group is like, in the original cut, it's like, I didn't like that Jill died. Oh, well, what if Jill killed somebody earlier? It's like, oh, okay, then it would be all right.
Yeah. Or at first they're like, what if she has like a bunch of unpaid parking tickets? And they're like, she doesn't deserve to die. It's like, what if she killed one of the models? Why would she do that? Doesn't matter. So that's dumb. This was a dumb movie. And the beginning isn't great, but already, like, the second that Jill comes into their apartment and Benson like totally breaks his own character to be like, guess what, Kerwin? Fuck you, and I'm just going to rub my ass all over this apartment for the next 2 days. And anything you try to tell me for the rest of the movie, I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself and hang up on you. And that you're a terrible policeman. And then you're going to kill yourself at the end of the movie. That was how this movie was going to go to theaters.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally just Ryan O'Neal berating a gay man until he killed himself. And they were like, get it? It's like the comedic version of Cruising. It's like, I wouldn't have cried at the end of Cruising, but I would have cried at the end of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Ryan O'Neal is just having sex with all kinds of women while yelling at Kerwin.
Yeah. I'm pretending to be gay by fucking women next to a gay guy. Just like gay people do. It's like, that's not what gay people do. That's Partners. Big thumbs down for me.
Yeah, thumbs down.
Thumbs down.
What are we thinking Letterboxd for this one?
I have it at number 8. No.
Holy shit. You did hate it.
Sorry, it's hard for me to remember what some of these movies are.
Yeah, I get it.
What was Final Assignment? I don't even remember that one.
That's the one where Genevieve Bujold is like trying to help revolutionaries who are being unfairly prosecuted.
All right, this is fine where it is. I'll leave it where it is.
Michael York keeps getting mad at her.
I have this one at 52 out of 64. It is below I Ought to Be in Pictures and above National Lampoon's Movie Madness.
I have it at 58, which puts it below Death Wish 2, but above National Lampoon's Movie Madness.
I also have it at 58, above Final Assignment that you were just asking about, and below National Lampoon's Movie Madness. So we all have it right next to Movie Madness.
I was debating whether or not it was above or below Movie Madness.
Yeah.
And it's right up there with
I think that there was stuff I laughed at in Movie Madness.
Yeah. Well, they're all rough right around that area.
Yeah. Our director here was James Burrows. Burrows was already a proven success with his television work, directing several episodes each of The Mary Tyler Moore Show, The Bob Newhart Show, The Tony Randall Show, Laverne and Shirley. This film was released right about halfway through a 75-episode run directing Taxi, but his best-known work is probably as co-creator and director of beloved bar sitcom Cheers, helming 236 of 270 episodes himself. Later, he directs small batches of news radio, Third Rock from the Sun, Frasier, Caroline in the City, Dharma and Greg, Friends, 2.5 Men, The Big Bang Theory, and, amazingly, even more episodes of Will and Grace than of Cheers, tapping out with 246 episodes. Confusingly, in 1995, he directed 10 episodes of a sitcom called Partners, unrelated to the film, and then in 2012, he directed 12 episodes of a sitcom called Partners, also unrelated to the film, also unrelated to the previous Partners series. He's directed a movie and 2 TV shows called Partners, and the shows and movies are unrelated.
That's bizarre.
This was his first and final film directing credit. The writer here was Francis Veber, likely best known for adapting La Cage aux Folles to the screen. He also wrote the original The Toy, which gets a remake later this season starring Richard Pryor. Another French film of his was adapted into last season's Buddy Buddy, and other works adapted into American remakes include The Man with One Red Shoe, Pure Luck, The Birdcage, Father's Day, and Dinner for Schmucks, and he also wrote the screenplay for My Father the Hero. The music here came from Georges Delerue. He has mostly French films. We heard his work last composing on Day of the Dolphin, and in the 80s on Willie and Phil, True Confessions, Rich and Famous, and A Little Sex. He's back this season for The Escape Artist, and later Agnes of God, Biloxi Blues, Twins, Beaches, Steel Magnolias, and Joe vs. the Volcano. Cinematographer here was Victor J. Kemper. Before this, he lit Husbands, They Might Be Giants, Dog Day Afternoon, Slapshot, Oh God, and Magic. We've seen his work so far lighting From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, Coma, Night of the Juggler, The Final Countdown, Xanadu, The Four Seasons, and Choo Choo and the Philly Flash. He's back this season for Author, and later Mr. Mom, Vacation, Cloak and Dagger, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and Clue. The editor here was Danford B. Green. Previously on the show, he cut MASH, Blazing Saddles, and Voices from the 70s. After this, he cuts 18 Again, completely unrelated to 17 Again, except they're both age body swap movies, and Who's Harry Crumb? The other editor was Stephen Lovejoy. This was his first editing credit. I'm sure these people didn't work at the same time. I'm sure this is, oh, we need an editor again 6 months later.
Yeah.
Lovejoy later cuts Born in East L.A., a handful of Tales from the Crypt episodes, and both Tales from the Crypt films, Demon Knight and Bordello of Blood. Ryan O'Neal played Sergeant Benson. He transitioned to film after a long run on Peyton Place, 501 episodes. He is best known for Love Story or Paper Moon. Paper Moon, obviously opposite his own daughter Tatum O'Neal. He's Barry Lyndon in Barry Lyndon. He appears with Tatum again in Nickelodeon, and we've seen him now in Paper Moon, Circle of Two, Green Ice, and So Fine. Later, he's in Irreconcilable Differences, Tough Guys Don't Dance, the 90210 reboot, and 24 episodes of Bones. And we just lost him a little over a year ago, December of 23.
Also, it's important to note that this is our third Benson in a row.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because we had Robbie Benson
for
in
The
2
Chosen
films,
and Movie Madness.
And this is our third Benson.
All right, let's keep an eye out for next week's. John Hurt played Kerwin. Before this, he was the voice of Hazel in Watership Down and Aragorn in Bakshi's Lord of the Rings. He's Cain in Alien. We've seen him now in The Elephant Man, Heaven's Gate, History of the World Part 1, and Night Crossing. He's back this season for The Plague Dogs, I think, unless that's later. He's in The Osterman Weekend, 1984, The Black Cauldron, King Ralph, Dead Man, Contact, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, where he's slinging wands at people. That sounded wrong. Dogville, Hellboy, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, one of his greatest works. Prior to Partners, Hurt had a celebrated turn as another gay character, Quentin Crisp, in 1975's The Naked Civil Servant for British television, and he reprised the role in 2009's An Englishman in New York. Kenneth McMillan played Chief Wilkins. He's another vintage video favorite. He got his start on Dark Shadows and then jumped right into a long string of big movies, Serpico, Pelham 123, Stepford Wives, Dog Day Afternoon, all in a row like that. After Serpico, we've seen him now in The Stepford Wives for a Patreon episode, Hide in Plain Sight, Little Miss Marker, Carney, Borderline, Eyewitness, True Confessions, Ragtime, Whose Life Is It Anyway, and Heartbeeps, and he's back this season for Clairvoyant, and later in Amadeus, Dune, and Cat's Eye. This was his second film with Ryan O'Neal after Oliver's Story in 1978. Robyn Douglas played Jill. Before this, she was in Breaking Away, and next season she's back for a romantic comedy. Jay Robinson played Halderstam. Who the fuck is Halderstam? Could be anyone.
Yep. Because we don't say people's names.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's the big fat guy that's naked on the patio. We saw him last in The Man with Bogart's Face. Later, he voices Calamari on an episode of The Real Ghostbusters, and then roles in Big Top Pee-wee and Bram Stoker's Dracula. Denise Galik played Clara. She was in the first Happy Hooker film. We've seen her now in Humanoids from the Deep, Melvin and Howard, and Oh God Book 2, and she's back this season for Deadly Games. Joseph R. Sicari played Walter. He's back this season for Fighting Back, and later in Mafia, the comedy. Michael McGuire played Monroe. His first big role was on Dark Shadows. Before this, he was in They Might Be Giants. He's back this season in Jekyll and Hyde Together Again, and later in MacGyver episode The Last Stand. But I always think of his role on Cheers, probably as a result of this film, where he was the guy who ditched Diane at the bar in the pilot, forcing her to apply to work there. James Remar played Edward K. Petersen. We've seen him so far in The Warriors, The Uncomfortably Similar Cruising, The Long Riders, and Windwalker. He's back this season for 48 Hours, and later The Cotton Club, Clan of the Cave Bear, The Dream Team, The Phantom. I think he takes over the part of Raiden for the second Mortal Kombat movie. He's in the Psycho remake. He's voiced Two-Face in a few animated iterations of Batman. He voices Sideswipe in Transformers Dark of the Moon. He shows up in Django Unchained. He's Dexter's father in 96 episodes of Dexter. He's Peter Gamby in 58 episodes of Black Lightning. And he just showed up in Nolan's Oppenheimer and Coppola's Megalopolis, back-to-back Best Picture winners. I'm guessing. We recorded this before the Oscars aired. Jennifer Ashley played Secretary. We've seen her now in Guyana Cult of the Damned, and she's back this season for Inseminoid. Daryl Larson played Al. Before this, he's in Future World and The China Syndrome. We've seen him in When Time Ran Out, and he returns this season for Francis and 6 Weeks. Later, he's in Brainstorm and Euphoria. Tony March played Aide Number 2. He's back this season for Wrong is Right. Seaman Glass played Gillis. We've seen him in Deliverance, Sleeper, Blazing Saddles, and Amy. Carl Cranes played Aide Number 1, credited after Aide Number 2 for some reason. Later this season, he's the Slayer in The Slayer. He's also back for Francis this season, and later The Gate and Gate 2 The Trespassers. I didn't know there was a Gate sequel.
Yeah, there was a Gate 2.
Probably trash, right?
Yeah, but the one kid does return.
Oh, really? Somebody came back. Wow. Bob Osmond played Detective. He was the Bullman in the 77 Island of Dr. Moreau. Carol Williard played Officer. We've seen her in Where the Buffalo Roam and Resurrection, and she's back later in Overboard, Beaches, and Pretty Woman. Gene Ross played a cop. He's a bank teller in Pennies from Heaven. He's in Angel, Friday the 13th 4, the final chapter, Cloak and Dagger, The Goonies as Man in Shower Number 1, and Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Bill Cross played Cop. We've seen him now in Heartbeat and I Ought to Be in Pictures. Later he's in Near Dark, and he's George Gein, the father of Ed Gein, in Ed Gein. Craig Shreve played a cop. He was in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and we saw him last in Raise the Titanic. John Garber played Bodybuilder. We've seen him now in Dirty Harry and Whose Life Is It Anyway? Later he's in Blue Thunder, War Games, and Short Circuit. Ed McCready played Doorman. He was in the 66 Batman movie, and we've seen him now in S and The Man with Bogart's Face. Later he's a cop in Dick Tracy. Martin Kove played the man in Phone Booth. That's the other cover model they warn, who doesn't play into anything. For some reason, he doesn't get killed, even though he didn't go to see the guy with the scratchy voice who was unrelated to the murders.
Right.
He's Nero the Hero in Death Race 2000, and we've seen him now as a deputy in The Last House on the Left and in a minisode review of Laboratory. Later, he's in The Karate Kid 1, 2, and 3, Rambo First Blood Part 2, and later he's reprised his Karate Kid character, John Kreese, for 56 episodes of the Cobra Kai series. Sidney Lassick played photoshoot assistant uncredited. Before this, he's in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Carrie, Happy Hooker Goes to Washington in 1941. We've seen him now in The Unseen, Alligator, History of the World Part 1, and Pandemonium. Later, he's in Rat Boy, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, Shakes the Clown, Cool as Ice, and Man on the Moon. Mark Stern played Showboat. He also appears in Cruising, and along with Escape from New York, we've now covered all 3 of his IMDb credits. I think that's everything for Partners. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share, you can find all our socials at linktree/vintagevideopod. And if you really like the show, maybe you should join our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/vintagevideopodcast for access to all our monthly 70s reviews and a hand in choosing next month's film. Patrons are currently choosing between Capone, Death Race 2000, Dolomite, The Passenger, The Reincarnation of Peter Proud, Rooster Cogburn, Super Vixens, Switchblade Sisters, or 10 Little Indians for a 50th anniversary review next month. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll join us next time when we'll be discussing Soup for One, which IMDb describes like so. When Alan meets Maria, he's sure he's found the perfect woman for him, but she's not interested. He persists, she relents, they begin dating. Alan then starts to second guess what he thought he wanted. We leave you now with the trailer for Soup for One.
In 1975, a team of Canadian scientists investigating the biological implications of single living conducted experiments with laboratory rats. They were dressed in tight-fitting double-knit polyester suits and forced to listen to disco music at high volume. 50 other rats, each coupled with a mate of the opposite sex, were kept in laboratory conditions simulating marriage. Is single living a viable alternative in a couple society?
Mom's gonna be home any minute. Chicken, come on. Oh my God. Mom. Hi, this is Rhonda. Rhonda, this is Mom.
If you want to do that with Rhonda, you will have to wait until you're older and the two of you are married. Do you understand, Alan?
I understand.
What are you doing here?
Just a checkup.
At a gynecologist's office.
It's a second opinion.
Do you have a fire escape? What are you doing here?
My mother lives in this building. She really does. I'm not lying. Wait a minute. Maria, just a second. Maria, hold up.
So, this is your apartment?
No, this is my car. I keep my apartment in a safe deposit box downtown.
All I want is to see my only daughter married.
The story of your escape from the sanitarium is probably quite interesting. But look at what you've done. You've attacked my gynecologist.
Oh, manner of speaking, eh?
You've looked at my address in the phone book and ambushed me on the street. Now, wouldn't it just be easier if you just asked me out on a date?
Will you go out to dinner with me tonight?
Not if the fate of mankind hung in the balance.
Was that a yes or a no?
Maria says that marriage is not for her. When you finally give up on Maria, you give me a call and we'll get drunk together.
Alan, I can't go to bed with you.
Why?
Because you're short and you're weird.
Who told you?
When you're looking for love, you find yourself doing some very funny things.
When you're